What's going on YouTube? Heathen Rhyme back with another video. Today we're going to be checking out why we can't have Red Dead Redemption 3 by the Act Man. Love Red Dead. Red Dead 2 is by far my favorite. I remember playing Red Dead 1 on the 360. Let's jump straight into it.
What's up, cattle rustlers? This is the Plander Man here, and today I don't have a hot take for you. I got a sad take for you. I don't believe Rockstar can or should make a Red Dead Redemption 3.
What you say is heresy.
I can hear it now. I can hear it. The doubting. Oh, the doubting. What kind of nonsense is this, Act Man? I thought you loved these games. Don't you want to see more of them?
Who doesn't love these games?
Yes, I do. But I also don't want it to be ruined. Red Dead can continue.
Makes sense.
But maybe the time for redemption is past. So today we'll be going over some of the more popular fan theories and ideas for a potential Red Dead Redemption 3, and why I don't think any of them would work or are good enough. And that's the sad reality, but that's the...
It would have to be another prequel. Like, otherwise, what else are you going to do? Maybe follow one of the guys in between, you know, Red Dead 2 and Red Dead 1, but I mean, that's meh. It'd have to be another prequel with John and Arthur when they were younger, and who the fuck would you get to play him? Arthur and them again? I mean, he's not exactly a spring chicken, neither of them are. So what would you do?
The way it is. It's easy to want more of a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not calling you a rat if you disagree with me, but you should definitely let me know in the comments what you think of these fan theories, and if you agree or disagree with me. I'm very interested to hear what people have to say.
I don't think they'd be able to do
RDR2
it well.
videos in the works. I'm still working on the main review, and I also have a deep dive into Dutch as a character coming out as well.
Wait, the main review, you haven't done it yet? 4 weeks ago. Really? It's been 6 years? I didn't realize it's been 6 years.
But as I've been working on these videos and re-experiencing the story, I've been trying to find a good idea, a good concept for RDR3, and I just can't. It's nearly fucking impossible, and I'm gonna give you the reasons why. Also, spoilers for these two gems. Just be aware. First, let's figure out what is absolutely essential to have in a Red Dead Redemption 3, so we can cull all the ideas that are simply out of the question.
I don't think.
Well, like most of Rockstar's games, we need a protagonist who can function in the role of an anti-hero, because we need to have the freedom to be a merciless outlaw, kill people, rob banks, and eat babies. Also, we have to stick with the cowboy western setting. I doubt many fans are going to want to play a Red Dead Redemption game set in World War I or some shit. Unless we do. Wait a minute. We could do cowboys and aliens. Oh. But the setting of the Wild West and the American frontier has limitless potential, so there are plenty of stories waiting to be told. But if we're going to put redemption in the title, then the game would have to fit that theme. A Red Dead Redemption game without the redemption would be like Resident Evil without the Resident Evil. Rockstar could make a Red Dead game without the redemption title. They did it once before, but given the success of the first two games, this might make it harder to market, and brand recognition is kind of the king in the world of business. But without any restrictions on our creativity, let's think about potential ideas. There are still plenty of questions that could be answered, but should they? So we really only have two options as far as a setting is concerned. We could have a prequel or sequel. The games take place between 1899 and 1914. We kind of want to stick in that time period. I suppose the next game could be set so it runs alongside these games, but then it just feel like we're rehashing what we already have.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel right.
To be a prequel, but if you take Red Dead and go too far into the past, there we are with muskets, and it's not a lot of fun. It's kind of why Battlefield 1 introduced automatic weapons, even though they weren't really a thing in World War I, because it makes the game more fun. But Red Dead Redemption really emphasizes the realism. Yeah, maybe we do another prequel where we play as Hosea and we fight in the Civil War. I call this idea Red Dead Emancipation. Let's say you want 3 to be a sequel, go too far into the future, and it's no longer a game about the harsh life in the Wild West. It's no longer a cowboy game. Are we going to play as Jack as he's conscripted into World War I in Red Dead duty? So the setting doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room if we want to continue this story. RDR just hits the perfect sweet spot. Like when I was born, I'm going to be one of the last generations that remembers what it was like to grow up without the internet. I can tell you what, there weren't many furries back in them days, boy howdy. Yeah. It's making me cringe. But these games take place during an amazing transitional period, the end of the Wild West, the dawn of civilization and order, the death of the outlaw. One of the most important themes of the games is learning to let the past die, to move on and accept things that cannot be changed. This theme is something you could apply to the continuation of Red Dead Redemption as a series. But the theme has been greatly explored across these 2 games, and there's really not much more to say about it or add to the existing characters. And yet this theme is so integral to the narrative of Red Dead Redemption, it's hard to imagine a 3rd game that doesn't explore the end of the Wild West. Maybe the next game takes place during the prime of the Wild West, but I think that'd be less interesting.
It wouldn't be as interesting. Honestly, worst comes to worst. Just give me the, what's it called? A remaster or a remake of Red Dead 1. Give me that. I want to be able to play it on PC with mods and shit. I'd love that.
Interesting. The point is, the setting is difficult to pin down, but with all that said, let's jump into our first real idea. Red Dead 3 should be a sequel that stars Jack Marston as the protagonist. You really want to play as a fucking bookworm nerd? No, I'm just kidding. Of the 8 surviving members of the Vanderlyn gang, Jack is the most obvious choice of protagonist. Unless, of course, they were to retcon Uncle's death so that he just like faked it, or maybe we could go for like a my heart wasn't actually in my chest thing. Then we could play as Uncle. Write that down, write that down! No, it'd have to be Jack. Everyone else is dead, or their story is finished, or their story should be kept vague. But how would you continue Jack's story? And that was the day I, Jack Marston, stopped being a fucking dork and decided to follow in my father's footsteps to become an outlaw.
I want to be a gunslinger when I grow up.
Over my dead body.
In this dying Wild West. No, get that shit out of here. Playing as Jack, I feel, would spit in the face of what these games are about. How would you actually give Jack a redemption arc without ruining the ending of the first game? You can't. In RDR2, Arthur Morgan finds redemption through selfless acts and sacrifice. The life of an outlaw has literally poisoned him, and he uses his last months alive to try and become a good man and to do the right thing. He gives the people around him a chance to escape a horrible fate and live a normal life. In RDR1, John Marston redeems himself by stepping up as a father, protecting his family, and leaving his past as an outlaw. In fact, he works with sheriffs, governments, revolutionaries, law enforcement, all sorts of authorities to stabilize and bring order to an area the Vanderlyn gang had devastated. After John's death, Abigail dies 3 years later. With nothing left to lose, Jack goes to get revenge on the man responsible, Edgar Ross. When the deed is done, Jack looks at his pistol, like he's thinking about throwing it into the river. But then he holsters it, because Jack is going to use that pistol in the future. That's the message. We don't need to see Jack Marston follow in the footsteps of his dad.
No, the whole point of the game, like, nah, that would, yeah, like he said, that would just spit in the full-on face of everything that, like, that his dad, everyone did for him. It wouldn't make sense.
Dutch or Arthur. Why?
Because of the implication.
The implication that he does follow in their footsteps and will meet the same fate is way more powerful. It's shown to us without words. We understand without being told the cycle will continue. Revenge is a fool's game, and the only way to save yourself is to let the past die and to move forward. So what redemption is there for Jack? What does he have to redeem? the sins of his father or the Vanderlyn gang? Everybody already paid for that with their lives. Now remember that you typically have some agency over the events, right? As John, you don't have to kill any of your former gang members. But when you play as Jack, you have to kill Edgar Ross. You don't have a choice because Jack doesn't have a choice. Jack has nothing to redeem. He's the ultimate victim of the Red Dead Redemption story. Despite their best efforts, neither Arthur or John could save him from the cycle of revenge and violence that led to their demise. I feel like Marvel has ruined people's brains when it comes to good narrative storytelling and analyzing it. It's like people forget that stories are supposed to end. They're supposed to be a page one and a final page. But we've been led to believe that if a series keeps making money, then the story keeps...
And the whole MCU overall ended with Endgame or No Way Home. I enjoyed No Way Home. I can't watch any of the other shit. But as far as like Avengers stuff, it ended with Endgame.
Keeps going. Until it's eventually ruined, of course.
Stupid.
Now, some people might say, but Actman in GTA 5, you can find a book called Red Dead that says Jay Marston as the author. Jack doesn't become an outlaw. He just killed Ross, was never captured, grew old, and became a writer. I'm sorry, but that ending fucking sucks. That's what Jack wanted to be, not what he became.
Yeah.
Also, these are two separate universes, right? We don't need an RCU. I think this book is just a nice reference and Easter egg.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just an Easter egg. For these reasons,
I think having Red Dead Redemption 3 be a sequel that stars Jack Marston is a terrible idea. Jack embracing the life of an outlaw instead of that of a writer is poetically tragic. It's perfect. And the only thing that can ruin perfection is adding imperfection. So let's leave Jack's story where it is.
Our time has passed. Yeah.
Idea number 2, RDR3 should be a prequel that shows the formation of the Vanderlyn gang, ending with the Blackwater Massacre. You might disagree with me when I say this, but when I'm done saying it, you will agree with me. The Blackwater Massacre should never be shown. Absolutely not.
You don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Let me ask you a philosophical question. Why do we have puzzles? What is it about the human condition that made us want to create puzzles for other people to solve? Because human beings inherently seek answers. We are...
Okay, so... okay, yeah, I can see not wanting the massacre shown. Okay, I can get over that. I can understand that. How about, though, doing the formation up until the Blackwater and it ends off like them going off to fight to do it or something along those lines, or maybe not even go that far up to the Blackwater, because that's a long period in between of the gang.
We are curious about the unknown. It's part of our DNA. So what's more fulfilling, being told the answer to a puzzle or figuring it out for yourself? Red Dead Redemption is intentionally vague about certain details. We don't need to see what happened in Blackwater for the same reasons that we don't need to be told who the strange man actually is. As a writer, what information you give to the audience is just as important as what you leave out, what you leave to the imagination. It's far more interesting for Blackwater to remain vague than it is to explicitly spell it out for us.
What really went down back there on that boat? We missed you. That's what happened.
Because when you talk to characters that were there, you have the element of an unreliable narrator.
Blackwater was about surviving, John.
Not for that girl, it weren't. You okay? I was on that boat. I saw what Dutch and Micah did, but he won't admit it.
Nobody really gives you the full picture, so it's literally up to the player to piece together what really happened, and even then the puzzle isn't complete. It's because all the questions aren't answered that this event is like mythological. People desperately want to know exactly what happened, and that's what makes it interesting. And because everybody you talk to about it avoids giving explicit details, you as the player get the vibe that this was an event, this was an experience that nobody wants to relive in their minds. The idea that it was so horrible nobody even wants to imagine it is more powerful than whatever Rockstar could come up with. But also, Dutch kills a woman in cold blood in a bad way in Red Dead 1, so you can kind of infer what it was like. So for me, showing the Blackwater Massacre in a Red Dead Redemption 3 is completely out of the question, which begs a new question: what would be an appropriate climax for Red Dead Redemption 3? And I
actually,
can't
yeah,
really
that's
think
true.
of one.
What would the
I've also heard
climax
the
be?
idea that maybe Dutch could be the protagonist, and we could watch him as he forms the gang. To that I ask, do you want a prequel to Dark Souls, Grey Souls? Do you want to see how Gwyn became the Lord of Cinder and why he linked the First Flame? If you have any self-respect, your answer should be no. The idea of playing as Dutch is wrong on so many levels. First off, he's not a character that we should have any agency or control over. That's why the gang fell apart, because nobody could control Dutch and keep him from going crazy. So how would you implement an honor system if you played as Dutch? Dutch didn't have any honor. And second, our three playable characters have established a pattern, and that we don't know their ultimate fate until the very end. Arthur Morgan was likely created and made the star of Red Dead 2 specifically for this reason, so we could play as a character whose story we don't already know. It's why Arthur's journey ends in chapter 6 and John's begins in the epilogue. They closed the book. It's a book. They closed it. There's not much more to do. And here's the thing, the games can be played in either order. So if you play 2 first, you still don't know what happens to John. We know Dutch's fate, and we can't exert any control over it or change anything about it like we could with Arthur. So there's no point. Not to mention, we already know Dutch's life story. We know it from start to finish pretty much. To make a game where we see even more of that, you wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. You'd be breaking it.
No, I don't understand why you would want something like that. It just doesn't make sense to me in the, like, it just doesn't make sense to me on why you'd want to see the formation of Dutch. Because yeah, it makes sense. You wouldn't be able to implement an honor system whatsoever. You already know how it ends. It's kind of like that's the same issue with all the other members. You can't do it with Hosea, although maybe Hosea's very early life, but even then, that's, like you said, you're just going back too far. Who else could you do? The only person I'd want to play as really is Arthur again. But like you said, the problem with that is, what do you have as the climax? If not Blackwater. Fuck knows. You'd have to create something.
Damn wheel.
And I get it. People love the fuck out of these games and these characters, and they just want to find a reason to look forward to a new game. I get it. I want more Halo games set between Halo 1 through 3. But to understand why you like something so much, you need to look at it from a writer's perspective. What is best left to the audience's imagination? If you as a writer explicitly answer all the questions, then what's left for your audience to talk about? Nothing. Because you've done the job for us. You've filled in all the blanks, given us all the facts, and made no room for error or interpretation. You can see the genius in this type of writing. I'll give you an example. Let's look at Micah. While most people would agree he was a rat working with the Pinkertons trying to sell the gang out, Micah never admits this himself. We never find hard evidence he was working with the Pinkertons. No letter like, "Hey, Agent Milton, how you doing, buddy?" And we don't have any flashback scenes to show Micah meeting with Milton. So
that is true. I didn't realize that.
Crack in the door. There's this sliver of doubt. We have something to talk about and interpret.
I mean, speak for yourself.
Somebody could
I
play
have no
devil's
doubt.
advocate and say, no, Micah wasn't a rat. But, you know, it's heavily implied that Micah is the rat. They literally have a rat run out of the house before Micah comes out. It's implied, not directly stated. Seeing how the gang was formed is far less interesting than how it fell apart. So a game set during this time period would feel
it's
wildly
more interesting.
anticlimactic. We already know how the gang formed and why. Dutch was a manipulative idealist with a silver tongue who recruited and convinced people to join him, people who were at their weakest point. They were outcasts, wanted by the law, targets of discrimination, orphan children, alcoholics with crippling back issues, and the undisputed love of my life, Sadie Adler. Dutch is a man who preyed on the weak and only really cared about people as far as he could manipulate and inspire loyalty in them. We don't need an origin story to explain this. Showing the origin of the gang would be superfluous because we already know everything. And yeah, you may have to look for those chunks of the story, but it's there. I mean, Red Dead 2 is not a short video game, and that's what makes it fun to experience.
I would enjoy it still.
All those camp conversations that are easily missed, you have to piece all that together. I haven't heard a good enough idea for Red Dead Redemption 3 that doesn't just start with making it completely disconnected from the two games we have and starting fresh. But if that's what they're gonna do, then what's the point of adding redemption? If they call it Red Dead Redemption 3 and it has nothing to do with the first two games, then that's just Black Ops 3 all over again. It's a sequel in name only because of brand recognition. And by the way, I don't want people to stop brainstorming these ideas. And I might sound like a party pooper, but come on, fellas. We have to
be practical now.
Also, this
honestly, here's an idea. Instead of having the same characters and having it, off to the side, you could do this. You could have it set in the same universe, have references to the other characters throughout the series, but have it take place in an entirely different game. Like O'Driscoll. You could have one with O'Driscoll. Well, not really, because you already know how he ends. But you get the idea. Make a whole new set of characters. Make us care about more characters set in the Red Dead universe. Take it before you met the gang. Whole new characters. No one's the same, but you hear little references. Maybe a mission where you meet them, but don't have it based on the characters. That could be a pretty cool idea.
Reddit comment, you could literally make the main character Molly O'Shea and it would still be a masterpiece. You see, I feel like people are just desperate for more from this series because they love it so much. Here's the third and final idea. Red Dead Redemption 3 should be a prequel that stars Landon Ricketts. Now, I myself am a Landon Ricketts simp. I think he's one of the coolest, most awesome, fascinating side characters of the franchise. And I think it's super cool that people even think he's worthy of starring in his own game. In Red Dead 1, Landon Ricketts is a famous, revered, elderly gunslinger, living out his final years in Mexico by the time we meet him as John. And he teaches us a new trick with Deadeye, gives us some life advice. But we could shoot the Landon Ricketts idea in the foot real quick. For starters, the voice actor passed away a while ago. And
R.I.P.
unlike the other essential characters, Uncle, Javier, and Abigail, Rockstar didn't recast Landon in Red Dead Redemption 2. They kept him as a cameo.
Killed more than Landon Ricketts without even pulling a trigger.
So he's not integral to the plot at all, even though apparently he was involved, or at least there, during the Blackwater Massacre. So Rockstar could have included him as a character, they could have recast him, but maybe out of respect,
they kept the respect of the character.
Practicality, they decided not to.
Probably practicality.
I think it's clear Rockstar has no intention of bringing Landon Ricketts back, but we can still entertain the idea for a moment. And by entertain, I mean dunk on. You see, Landon didn't have a redemption arc. And again, we fall back on the we already know how his story ends thing. But he was able to reform himself and fit into the landscape of the dying Wild West. Albeit he's very confused how he managed to do so. Give us a whole new gang and characters to play with. Because he wasn't an outlaw, he was a gunslinger and a bounty hunter. So we already had his redemption arc off screen. We know where he ends up and we can leave it at that. Landon works best as a mysterious veteran gunslinger, the last of his kind. He says he's in Mexico waiting for something, but doesn't know what, as if he didn't expect to get this far. Landon Ricketts is the exception to the rule of Red Dead Redemption. You don't get to live a bad life and have good things happen to you. Landon has killed a lot of people. The only reason he's still alive is because he was the best gunslinger. If he wasn't, he'd be dead. The only reason he's in Mexico hanging out in the first game is because he doesn't know what else to do. And when John comes around, it's almost like Landon sees a part of his former self in this man and wants to try and set him on the right path. Landon wants to give John the wisdom that he wished he got. Now, it's possible that a Red Dead 3 starring Landon Ricketts would avoid rehashing the plot of the first two games, and we could see the glory days of the Wild West, but I also think he works better as a legendary side character. He's not important enough to be a protagonist. Well, Actman, you've shot down all these ideas.
Yeah,
you best have one that's good enough yourself, do you? Yes. Yes, I do. And it won't ever be made either. Undead Nightmare 2, I rest my case. Hashtag fuck it.
I want it.
But on the real, I think starting fresh is the right call. The series
you
is
need to.
Red Dead, not just Red Dead Redemption. I haven't put too much thought into my own ideas, but you want to start from the title and then work from there. So a title like Red Dead Revolution, Red Dead Revenge, Red Dead Repeater, you want something that fits that same theme that can also spark some creative ideas, you know? At the end of the day, the story of Red Dead Redemption is complete. It's finished. I mean, there are so many hours of dialogue and cutscenes, conversations. There's so much lore to unravel. I haven't even fucking read all of Arthur's journal yet. And there's journal entries for Arthur and John. Many of the side quests can be completed as both characters. Arthur has multiple different endings and cutscenes if it's low honor or high honor. The story is complete. All of the backstory is there. And it's for all these reasons that I think Red Dead Redemption 3 doesn't make any sense. I think it's time for a new perspective. You know, Arthur told
RDR3 isn't there.
You gotta run and don't look back.
But the Red Dead series itself is not.
Gone. Red Dead Regression. If the franchise is going to continue, it can't stay shackled to these characters and to the past.
I want you
to
not look back.
Here we go. Separate timeline. Timeline splits off. Red Dead Resurrection. Arthur Morgan's alive.
But what do you think? Do you like any of the ideas or theories for Red Dead Redemption 3? What's your own personal concept
those ideas,
or idea for it?
Those ideas, I wasn't the biggest fan of. The best one that I heard would have been seeing the formation of the gang, but the question is, who do you play as? Personally, I'd want to play as Arthur again, or I prefer Arthur over John. But yeah, it'd have to be, when they do it, it wouldn't be 3. It'd have to be Red Dead whatever, and they'd have to do, if they wanted to stick with the outlaw theme, it'd have to be a new gang.
And make it good before you post your comment. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to reading what you guys have to say. I have been overanalyzing Red Dead Redemption 2's story. I've been preparing some kick-ass videos, so excited to share them with you. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Actman for more.
Yeah, subscribe to him. This is the first video of his I've seen. I like it. Give it a like. Let's check out some of these. That'd be funny. That's funny, but no. Honestly, yes. Experiencing it for the first time was different. It was so good. But this ending is kind of, jokey, but this actually isn't the weirdest idea. That's pretty cool. Oh, I actually didn't know this. Yeah, the Red Dead Redemption is gone. You need to start fresh with something else for Wild West. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, the Vanderling story is over. but you can do it with other characters. This actually seems like a really cool idea. That's cool. I like that. That could go hard. And then a bunch of gun nerds. Well, that was why we can't have Red Dead Redemption 3 by the Yak Man. Make sure you check out the original video. Give him some love, obviously. Subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a like if you enjoyed. And yeah, take care of yourselves. See you next time.
See me all the love. I need all the love. I mean all of us. It's like 6 o'clock, but you talk too much. You make it awkward laugh. I mean it's hard enough. I mean